back to Reads and Threads. My name's Kate. Hello if you're new here. Welcome back if you're joining us again. Today we're going to go through my May reading wrap up. I did in May play my new TBR game, Reach the Castle, for the first time. So we'll run through the roles, what books I pulled for the game, how many I actually managed to read, and then a bit about what I thought about them all. If you haven't seen my game yet, I'll make sure to link the playlist down below, so feel free to go check it out first, or you can just have a look at my next one. Anyway, I hope you enjoy, and I feel like I had a pretty good reading month. So for my first game of Reach the Castle, I ended up having 6 rolls in total to get to the end of the game. And it was lots of fun. It worked out a lot better than I could have hoped, and I'm really happy with how it has gone. We'll quickly run through the rolls and the books that I got for those ones and see how I went in actually reading them. My first roll, we rolled a 3 and I landed on a toadstool, and I got Nora Roberts' Blythe Images. I did read this one. For my second roll, I rolled a 10 and landed on a Broomstick, which are books that I added to my want to read list in 2025. So really happy with that. These can be older books and newer books depending on when I came across them. For this one, I got Queen Charlotte by Julia Quinn and Shonda Rhimes, and I have read that one. For roll number 3, I rolled an 11 and we landed on a crown, and I got Empress of the Fool by David Hare. I did not read this one. For roll number 4, we got a 9 and I landed on a sword, which got us Working for the Devil by Lilith St. Croix. I didn't read this one in May fully, but I have since finished it, FYI. For roll number 5, I got our first prompt card and we got Animal on the cover, and I picked the book With Dagger and Song, which is the second in the Siren Queen saga by Helen Schurer, and I did read that one. For roll number 6, we got a 3 and landed on a Broomstick, and I got the book Fates Divided by Jay Barnard. I did not get to this one. I added 3 extra books to the end of my TBR for Catch Up Book Club, Buzzwordathon Challenge, and my In Real Life Book Club. For the book hose, my In Real Life Book Club, I had 55 by James DeLargy. I did read this one. For Catch Up Book Club, we were reading Ruin by John Gwynne. I did read this one, though didn't manage to get it done before the live show. And then the buzzword book that I had originally allocated to this slot needed to have 2 T-O or T-O-O in the title. And for this one, I was originally going to read a book called To Kill a Fae by Jamie A. Waters. I did not read this one, so I did pick another book and we'll go into that. I have also read 5 extra books this month, and we'll go into those in a second. So overall, not too bad. From my rolls, I read 3 of the 6 and then 2 of the 3 extra ones altogether. So not too bad. In total in May, I did end up being able to get to 10 books. Not all of these were full length books. Some were short novellas. They ranged from like 60 pages to 160-ish, which did let me get through a fair few more than I normally would, which was really handy. And I just had a good time mostly overall. Let's do some of the stats. Of those 10 books, I had 6 5-stars, 2 4.5 stars, 1 3-star, and 1 1-star, which gave me an average star rating of 3.91. I read a total of 3,339 pages in May, which works out to an average pages per day of 107.71, so very happy with that, and an average page count of 303.55. Of the formats that I read these in, 2 were physical, 7 I did on audio, and 1 ebook. How I acquired them, I had 1 from Apple Books, 6 from Audible, and 3 that I got from the library. Genre breakdown now. I did 7 fantasy, 1 mystery, 1 historical romance, and 1 romance. And series wise, I started 1 series. I continued 4 and I completed 2. And then I had 2 standalone in that and 4 companion novels. Age demographic, I read 6 young adult and 4 adult. So overall, really happy with the range of items that I got to and just the breadth of stories that I was able to read were really interesting. So we'll go into a bit more detail now and have a look, tell you my thoughts, what I rated them, see if there's any that you have read, what you think about them, and any that you might want to pick up. I started the month off with my audio read. We ended up going away in the middle of April for my niece's birthday. I had a 2.5 hour drive both ways to get to where we were staying, so it was really handy. I could chuck on my audio and really get into the story. The first book that I read was With Dagger and Song by Helen Schurer. This is book 2 in the Siren Queen books. And this one was my animal prompt, had a snake on the cover. I did listen to this one in audio. I have since picked up physical editions at Babe at the end of May, which I will have in another video, the haul that I got there. This one I absolutely loved. I couldn't put it down. I thought the character development was really great. Helen's world building is epic. I loved the way that the story was going and the pacing and the interaction with all the characters. There were parts where I found Rose slightly annoying, but not enough that stopped me from ever wanting to read any or wanting to put it down. I just ate this whole series up and absolutely flew through them. These ones have all got 5 stars. I absolutely love them. When I rate a book 5 stars, it's a book that I can't put down. It's one that I want to know what's happening. I am in it fully and I just want the next one straight away. I figure if those things are happening, it's a 5-star read for me. I adored this book. The narrator was really good. The narrator was Fiona Hardingham and she just did a really good job. She got me so into the story and it was just really well put together. To the point where once I finished this one, I straight away picked up The Fabric of Chaos and again, really loved this story. I liked how this overall plot was heading. We were introduced to new characters and how they interacted with the main core group of 4 was just really interesting. I found the whole trials for her to become queen interesting and just everything just worked really well. So flew through this one to the point where I then picked up the last one in this series, which was To Wield a Crown. This one I ended up using as my buzzword book. And I wasn't originally thinking I would get to this one. I thought I might stop after I'd read With Dagger and Song and keep doing my game, but I couldn't wait that long. And this does obviously have 2 in the title, so it worked really well. And like I said, flew through them all, absolutely loved everything. I liked the way that the story wrapped up. I thought it was good. I didn't see it necessarily coming, though probably should have. There's not a huge level of romance in all of these. These are a YA series. And I kind of like that there was a little bit, but it wasn't the main point of the story. The point of the story was Rose attempting to become Queen of the Sirens. And just sirens in general. I don't know that I've ever read a series about sirens before. So really happy that I did manage to get to all 3 of these. I love that I have physical copies of these now. And these ones have all being signed by Helen, which was great, and I did manage to meet her as well. Really looking forward to getting to more of Helen's work. This was the first series of hers that I have read. I am eager to get to the Legends of Thesmar, though I have gone back to the series that she wrote before this one, which is the Oromir, and have only just started that as I'm recording this. But I'm enjoying that, and this links into the same world as the Siren Queen. So really interested to see how they interact between the stories. But if you haven't picked up Helen, but want something with maybe a little bit less romance, smut, this is a really good series. There's not much in. It is very more fantasy based. It moves quickly. It's a great time. The narrator is the same for all of them if you go with the audio versions, and I just had a really great time and you won't regret it. Once I had finished the main 4 books in that series though, in the audio as you're listening, at the end of each book there is a little novella that is part of the Siren Queen origins, and you could probably have read these as you were reading the big books. I don't know that it would have had any grand impact on reading them in those places. I just wanted to make sure I didn't have the chance of spoiling any part of the story at all. So we're following the current queen as a child, as well as Rose's mother. So I did leave them till the end, and I think it worked really well. These are extremely short. These ones are definitely novellas. The first one, A Song in the Deep, was only 53 pages long. It didn't really take very long to listen to at all, and you just get a little snippet. And then the next one, The Law of the Lair, that was a bit longer. That came in at 82 pages, and again, just built on the relationship between the Queen and Rose's mum and what had it transpired. And then the last one was The Tides of War, and that was only 80 pages. So like you can see, really small, short, sharp, shiny, but still a really good time. And I just think overall, this whole series is a 5-star series for me. And I gave all of those 3 little novellas, even though they were really short, 5 stars as well. Just, I think they worked really well together. It was nice to have a little bit of backstory, and no, not necessary to listen to or read, just a nice addition. The next book that I read in May took me a lot longer to finish than I was originally hoping, and that was Ruin by John Gwynne, which is the 3rd in the Faithful and the Fallen series. This is part of Becca and the Book's Catch Up Book Club, and this is the first time I have participated in Catch Up Book Club, and I am really enjoying it. I do like a good epic fantasy. It has been a while since I've read one. The other epic fantasy that I am probably through the middle of and have been in the middle of for years is Robert Jordan's Wheel of Time, but this one is only 4 books as opposed to 14. So the pacing is a lot better. This was epic. Overall, I've given this 4.5 stars. I had a really good time. A lot happens. I can't go into great detail about it because I don't want to give you any spoilers. It had some really big emotional points leading up to what I can only imagine is going to be an epic battle in the last book. If you don't know what this series is about, we're following a range of different characters, both men and giants, as we battle a god war. So there is light and dark, good and evil, though you can't really tell who's who and who's on the right side. There's definite shades of grey in here, and you are kept on your toes as to who's in the right and who's in the wrong. And I think John Gwynne has done it really well. There was some stuff in here that was devastating, some stuff that made me queasy, and there are definitely characters that I want to see die in epic ways. If you haven't ever picked up an epic fantasy, I would definitely recommend giving these ones a go. There is a lot of characters. It can be hard to keep track of them all, but there is a glossary at the end, or the beginning, I think. There's a character guide and map. Yeah, so there's a character guide at the beginning of the books. There's a map. They're just a really good time. I am looking forward to reading Wrath in the next couple of months and seeing what happens and how this all ends. Knowing that the next trilogy that we'll be reading is set after this series in the same world, and it will just be interesting to see what happens. Like, if we're jumping forward in time, I really just am super intrigued as to what is going to happen at the end. This took me a bit longer to read, and I didn't make it to the live show, which then meant that I took my time with it after that. I just really slowed down and started consuming it at a pace where I could really enjoy it instead of trying to push myself to finish and staying up to a ridiculous amount of hours in the day. I also realized that with daylight savings finishing and time zones changing, that the live show for me would have started at like 4:30 in the morning. So it wasn't overly feasible to do live. I will probably have to catch the rest recorded later, which is okay. I just still find it really interesting listening to what they have to say about it, though don't ever want to watch them before I have finished reading the book because I don't want the spoilers. I think overall this story flows really well. It has good pacing and I wasn't bored in the slightest. It does move from battle to battle and you are getting increasing amounts of battle, but they are written well, I think, and I find them easy to follow. And just overall, a really good series. The next book I read was For the Book Hose, which was 55 by James DeLargy. This one's set in the Western Australian outback. We mostly follow a police sergeant who has to try and figure out who is telling the truth and whether they have a serial killer on their hands. While him and his colleagues are going about their daily lives, a gentleman comes into the police station claiming that he was abducted and he's going to be the man's 55th victim. We then end up with the supposed accused serial killer coming into the station himself, though this time held at gunpoint by a local who then claims that the first guy who came into the police station is actually the serial killer and he's going to be the 55th victim. So the police then have to figure out who's telling the truth, who's lying, and pretty much a task force comes out to this little outback town and they take over the investigation. And the lead investigator that comes actually used to live in the town and used to be the policeman's ex-partner. So they have a lot of history that you don't know about. Something's happened. We also have flashbacks to a previous missing persons case that the two police officers were involved in before one of them moved down to Perth. Overall, this book is okay. I gave it 3 stars. I absolutely detested the ending of this book. I also found a lot of the cops' backstories to be irrelevant. Also, our main sergeant's ex-wife's storyline was not overly that interesting. The thing that really got me by the end was being Australian, and I have never heard Western Australia referred as West Australia. And I don't know why we're doing that. I don't know if they do that in WA, but I know that in South Australia, I've never heard of Western Australia be referred to as West Australia. So that was just a little thing that really bugged me. I couldn't let it go for some reason and it just drove me nuts. I think a lot of it was dragged out. We had so much back and forth between interviewing both suspects, who was who, what was going on, and it was too much. And the overall reveal, it was okay. I didn't really love it. Like I said, it's a 3-star. It's easy to read. It is quick, but a little frustrating. And the payoff at the end, I don't really think is worth it. Okay, the next book I read was Queen Charlotte by Julia Quinn and Shonda Rhimes. I was really interested to get to this one. I picked up the Bridgerton series last year. It really got me back into reading after a multi-year slump where I wasn't really picking up much of anything. I had seen this series before on Netflix, so knew what was pretty much going to happen. I did listen to this one and I thought that the narrator, Natalie Simpson, it was really interesting. She did do a good job, but she sounded so much like the actress that had played Queen Charlotte that I ended up looking it up to see if it was the same person. It wasn't, but she got her voice so spot on. I just thought that they were one and the same. The thing that slightly let this down was that there wasn't really anything much different from here to the TV adaptation, and I think they definitely wrote this after the screenplay for Queen Charlotte was written. The characters are still really good. It's a lovely story. There were parts of this that I was still giggling along to, sniggering at. There were a couple maybe of slight changes. I don't think there really was much that was different at all. Even though I did enjoy this and I did overall give it a 4.5 stars, I don't know that if you've watched the TV show, it's overly necessary to read the book. You're not going to get a huge amount out of it that you didn't just get watching the show. If you haven't seen the show, it might be worth reading this first and then watching the show. I generally, most of the time with adaptations, that is probably a better way of doing it, consuming the book than the show. However, still really solid, really good book. I enjoyed the audio version and I'm glad that I've read it now. I do quite like Julia Quinn's writing style, I think, so I am eager to pick more of her stuff up. And I think Shonda Rhimes has just done such a good job with the whole Bridgerton series on Netflix. It's fun to watch. It will be interesting to see the rest of the adaptations from the Bridgerton novels as they come around, but this one, if you haven't read it or seen it, definitely worth picking up and giving it a go. And now we come to my last read of the month and my worst read of the month. So the last book that I picked up was Blythe Images by Nora Roberts. This is only short. It's only 169 pages. And having read from Nora Roberts, I didn't think it was going to be an issue. I thought I could fly through this. I did know that this was an older book. This came out in like 1982, so it's technically like a year older than me. However, this needs to stay in 1982. I don't think it should be in print anymore. It's completely outdated. It doesn't hold up. It was a struggle to get through that 169 pages. I know it's a romance. I don't have the best luck with like flat romances. I find I roll my eyes a lot. I don't find it believable. But these characters are so dated. The male main character is a pig. I don't know how anyone could be expected to fall in love with this guy. He was completely chauvinistic. He would touch her all the time. Like, they barely knew each other and he was touching her like on the shoulder, grabbing her, putting his hand under her chin. It just really grossed me out. The other thing is, and I know that this has obviously changed a lot in the last 40 years, but he just pretty much invited himself into her house and then started smoking a cigarette. And I've never been one to like smoking much at all in general, but the whole idea of someone coming into your house and doing that without asking or knowing if it's okay, it just really bothered me. And I just think that by the end of the story, you don't feel anything for the main character, to the point where I think she's an idiot, really, for ending up with this guy. And I don't think that they're going to be happily ever after. I think it's toxic. And all of that in 169 pages. I just don't think that it holds up. I really enjoyed Nora Roberts' later stuff, and I think I'm going to have to stick to that for the most part. I will still try the older stuff. I don't know that I'm going to enjoy it much at all, although I am no longer afraid to DNF any of the books that I'm reading. So I won't be wasting my time, even on a really short one, if I don't see it being worth my while. Overall, extremely disappointing, though probably not a surprise that it was. Overall, I'm really happy with all the books I managed to get to this month. I think the amount, even with some of them being shorter, was awesome for me. I don't know that I've had 10 ever. Using my game was a lot of fun. I am really enjoying it and I can't wait to do that again. I hope that you had some great reads in May. If you did, let me know. I would love to hear about them. I want to add as many as I can to my want to read list. I don't think that it can ever be long enough. There are so many good stories out there, so many that I've never heard of, that I would just love if you let me know what they were, if you really enjoyed them. That would be great. If you would like to see more from me, please think about subscribing. I put out a video every week. I've also added down in the description my Goodreads, my Storygraph, and my Instagram if you'd like to follow along with any of those. If you haven't already, please give this video a like. It would really help me out. And I just hope that wherever you are having a really wonderful day. And we'll see you next time. Bye.